All right, so hi everyone. So I thought we could learn Python together in this lockdown, and I thought we would share some knowledge and learn together. So before starting any programming language, we want to go back why we program and just let's brush up on some of these basics, and let's start with Python. Okay. So why we program basically because we want computer to be helpful. So whatever computational power that we have purchased, so it has to be helpful to us. And we want uh, we want all our users to the things have to be very easy for them. And there are a lot of programs that already people have written, and we should be just be able to pick them up. And if you want to do any kind of programming, we need to speak basically their language. And basically the programmers, so there is a huge demand for programmers in the market. And what do programmers do? Basically they anticipate what is required in the market. For example, some of the engineers, when the marketplace on iPhone or Android became very popular, they left their full-time job to become these developers because they anticipated the need for these people, like need for the developers. So there is a huge demand these days because it's a lot of trend that is happening called microservices, the cloud, the AI, machine learning. Wherever you go into the domain, uh, there is a lot of programming that happens. So if you learn a little bit of programming, it will definitely help in your careers. So in this course, basically you learn the fundamentals of Python. Also, along with that, you learn about some advanced concepts, and we can go as long as we want at a later point. But first, let's get the fundamentals right. So why be a programmer in the first place? To get this some job done, because I want to build a tool which will help me, and we are going to be the programmers. But something more valuable is to produce something for others. For example, you are creating YouTube, we are creating a YouTube video conferencing app like Zoom, or create a greeting card website. So you are helping others and you are bringing some value. So from the software developer point of view, we build the software and give to the customers. But the end users who are our customers, who are actually our masters, whom we want to just please. Okay. And for pleasing them, they pay us money when they are actually happy. So they are called clients. But the clients will not manage the data, information, and the networks. They are our problem to be solved. Okay. But who are our friends in the quest of programming? The hardware and the software that is in our hands are our friends and allies to solve the problems. Okay. So what is a code? Basically, a code is basically a sequence of stored instructions. Okay. So it's our little piece of intelligence that we have written in our computer, and it runs, and it brings some kind of intelligence. So what can other type of code can be? It can be that we have figured out something very interesting thing and we have shared with everybody else, and we are sharing with other people, and that thing is becoming helpful for them. So that has become very popular these days. That's called open source. And there are a lot of interesting technologies that have come because people have figured out something they have shared with the world, like Docker. You have Kubernetes, you have Python itself. It has helped a lot of these people because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And what is a code? Code is also a piece of creative art for some of them, because they have liked this so much they have built great stuff on it. Like OpenStack is a very good product which was called a cloud operating system. Okay. So if you see any work, if you have a good UI, so it becomes a great creative art. So that's basically a program or a software or a code. Okay. So we have learned all this in engineering. So let's get some refresher on this. So we have seen these hardware architectures, like we have seen these boards like PCB boards, we have seen all this PC board, bigger ones, smaller ones. This is Raspberry Pi, which is a smaller one these days. So the reason we are learning this today is we want to understand how does the program run before we actually I teach you how to write the code. Okay. So basically, you have a CPU unit, you have main memory, you have secondary memory, you have input and output. Okay, so input can be your mouse, keyboard, and there can be some other devices like printer. Printer is an output, but you have multiple devices connected to your machine. So what do? You write a program. Okay, you write a program and you store it in a file. Okay, that storage is called a secondary storage. Okay, the file that is in the secondary storage, if you want to actually execute it, it has to go to main memory, that is called RAM. Okay, so from the file from secondary storage moves to the primary storage, which will help the CPU. For example, the Intel processors, which actually do the main job of processing the instructions, have to access from the main memory itself. Okay, so they cannot go to secondary memory. So whatever program you run, for example VLC player or any of these programs in your computer, goes to main memory first, then the CPU actually processes the instructions, the billions of instructions per second. Okay, so there are input devices, there are output devices. So in terms of Python, so we create a file called .py on your hard disk, that is your secondary memory. And when you actually run this program, it goes into the main memory, and all the instructions that are part of this Python program are getting processed using CPU. Okay, so CPU can use ALU registers, whatever is required, the transistors, so all that. So and the output is also given back, and that is given out to the STD out, the standard output that you see on a terminal or a web UI or anywhere. Okay, so this is the main revision that I wanted to tell you before we can move on. So for all the beginner programmers, I think there are so many programmers here. So beginner, very beginner programs where you want to know Python from beginning to scratch. So first you need to know that the way we communicate in English, you also have to learn to communicate in the language of Python. And initially there will be a lot of errors. So when you make a mistake, Python will shout at you in a very rude way. So don't take it personally, try to understand these errors and you can actually enjoy the coding. So you also must remember that you are really intelligent and can learn. Computer is just a simple, fast, and actually it cannot learn like us. So that's just an encouragement, and it will help you because most of the early programmers, the early learners, live it because they think that Python, the programming itself is very difficult, but it actually is very interesting. You need to understand the flow. That's all. Okay, so coming to Python programming, Python programming was invented by a person called Guido van Rossum, and it was first released in 1991. And uh, the reason it was called Python is because at that time most of these programming languages like C and ABC were actually complex, and only the scientists were used to learn all of these. So he wanted to make the programming very simple, joyous to learn, at the same time more powerful. So since he wanted to make it fun, and he had he was very a good fan of Monty Python.
Seems like we lost him.
Pawan, we can't hear you, man.
So now is it audible?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you disconnected.
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
All right. Uh, so it was conceived in 1980s as a successor of a language called ABC language. So at that time, there were so many languages. So this guy came up with Python, And so Python is basically a dynamically typed and and it's also a garbage collector. It supports multiple programming paradigms. So we have written C program, which is basically procedural oriented language. So we have written Java, we have written other languages which are basically object oriented languages, and we have written some of the latest languages which use a concept called functional programming. Okay, so the Python is a combination of all of these three programming paradigms. So Python is actually described as a batteries included language because it has got huge standard library, which by default it gives you a lot of additional modules which you need not install. Okay, for example, JSON and a similar kind of uh, programming uh, things. So this guy was working for a lot of companies as an independent consultant, and now he has retired from even Python development. Okay. So Python 2 came in 2000, and Python 3 is the latest version. So latest version is Python 3.8. Okay. So let's get to uh, the structure of this programming language, Python. How do we talk to this Python? So we talk in three ways. We are going to say we need to understand how we are going to talk to Python. We need to understand the vocabulary of Python. Like, how do we talk? They're called, like, you want to use words, you want to use reserved words. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about sentence structure. So how do you create this sentence structure so that Python can understand it very well? And we are going to tell also how our programming story is structured. Okay, so you define a purpose for your program. For example, I want to print prime numbers, so you have to structure and make it better, and the structure the Python can understand, so we need to build in that way. Okay, so it's quite easy. I'll show you an example as well. So this is a simple story in Python. So assume this is a story. What this is doing is it's reading a file, and it's trying to read the number of words which are there in this file, and trying to calculate, okay, for this word, how many number of times that word has occurred in this particular file. Okay, so that's all it is doing. The story is going like this. So from the top it is reading the file. Here, don't worry about the syntax. We'll talk about syntax at later point. Here it is calculating for each of these words how many number of times it has occurred. And here it is saying if it is more than 10, oh, it has got more high frequency. So that's what this is doing. So you have to think about program as a stories, then you actually can easily make out these programs. So as I said, this is the if you learn these three things, you can easily code in Python. So first one is this vocabulary. You need to understand how to talk. You need to understand the words initially, then from the words you try to make sentences, and from the sentences you make stories. So what are these words? We can use any words in Python, but there are some words that Python itself has got special meaning for them. Okay, so you should not use these words for anything apart from what Python has meant. Okay, for example, for means something in Python, if means something in Python, else means something in Python. Okay, so you should not use these words anywhere apart from where it is supposed to be used. Like, you cannot use these words to create variables. Okay, these are called reserved words or keywords. Okay, so this is the vocabulary that you need to know. Okay, and the second vocabulary, sentences. How do I create sentences? Creating sentence in Python is very easy. Okay, so on the left side you have some variable name, on the right side you have an expression, in between you have an operator. So basically the sentence would be like this: you have a variable, you have an operator, and you have a constant or the expression on the right side. This is the expression, this is a variable, you have operator. Operator plus operand is called an expression. So a sentence is basically an expression. It can be a complex expression. It can be very simple expression. So here, a simple line that I'm telling to Python, a sentence I'm telling to Python is x is equal to 2. Here I'm saying that I'm assigning a value called 2 to a name called x. See here, x is not in those reserved keywords. That is why I'm using this x. Similarly, what I'm doing here is I have value of x is equal to 2. Now I'm just incrementing this value of x by 2. So it becomes 4. And I'm assigning that 4 again to x. So this is called assignment expression. Okay, here I'm assignment and modifying the existing value. Okay, so this is how I'm talking to Python. So one, we learned about vocabulary. Second, we are learning about the sentences. The third sentence includes a special word called a function. Here I'm saying print x. So I'm telling to Python, just go ahead and print this variable. Okay, so this is how you write basically sentences. Now, how do you write stories? The actual stories using the words and sentences, we write something known as scripts in Python. Okay, so I hope everybody has installed Python, and when you install Python, basically, just a minute. So when you installed Python, when you type Python, you should get this prompt. This is basically a way of interacting with Python. Okay, even on Windows, if you type Python, you should get this. So you get a three angle on the right angles. Okay, this is where you start interacting with Python. Okay, for example, I will do x is equal to 2. I will do x is equal to x plus 2. Now, if I just print x, so it gives me 24 because initially x was 2. Now x plus 22 becomes 24. So when you open this Python, it opened a program called interpreter, and it is always asking what's next for me. Okay, so you start giving these expressions. So you start giving small expressions. So this is a way to interact with Python interactively. Okay, so you don't write long programs here. The way to come out of this is you do exit and brackets. Okay, so this is just to do 2 to 3 sentences of programming. If you want to do, you will use this, basically an interactive way. It's very hard to write long programs there. But if you want to write a long programs, you will create a file, and let me go ahead and create it. Let me create a directory. Okay, let me go into this directory, and let me create a file. Okay, how do I create a file in Linux? I will say hello world.py touch. Okay, so I created this file. Now in this file, actually I will write some Python code. So let me go ahead and write some Python code. So what I will do is I will say x is equal to 2, and I will just print the x. So I've written 2 lines of code in this particular file. I am defining a value of 2 in a variable called x, and I'm just printing it. Now the way I run is I say Python, and I would say file name. Okay, hello world.py. So it gives me a value of x as the output. As you can see, the output came as 2. So there are 2 ways of using Python. One is interactively use Python through the interactive method. Second one is basically you create a file and you write code there, and you basically end that file with .py and write some code in that, and you run it. The way you run it is basically you do Python space file name.py. So that's how you write. So so what does these Python scripts contain basically? So in the scripts we can have some of the code which is to do some kind of testing, like, okay, if this particular condition is met, I want to do something. And in some of the steps, what you want to do is you want to repeat some of the values. You want to repeat some calculation. And in at sometimes what you do is you store some of the instructions together, you group it, and you can actually reuse them. Okay, so the three patterns in Python scripts that you basically see everywhere is, one is called conditional, second one is called repeated, and third one is called functional. Okay, so if you learn these three things, then you are actually you are at a starting point in Python coding. Okay, so one is conditional, one is repetitive, third one is functional. Okay, where you're storing some group of instructions and where you are reusing them. Okay, there are two ways, one is interactive way, one is script way. So most of the data center guys, the admin guys, use Python script, so it has become very popular these days. People use to script all this automation stuff. Okay, and even there is a program called Ansible. Ansible is a automation tool which helps to provision servers or do some kind of commands on a remote machine, that is also written in Python. Okay, so let's understand what is the meaning of conditional. I'm not actually telling you any code, we'll learn that slowly, but let me tell you what is conditional. So what is conditional is basically you create some kind of a branch, you create some kind of a branch, and at any given moment you will check for a condition. If the condition becomes true, for example, if the value of x is 4 and you test it, oh, what is the value of x? If it is equal to 4, I want to perform some operations. Otherwise, if the value of x is not equal to 4, I want to perform some operations. So you are doing some kind of conditional checking. Okay, so the basic syntax is very easy in Python, which we will learn later point. One is if the condition can be anything, okay, a random thing. So here a set of statements would be run if the condition becomes true. Otherwise, I am going to add a new condition here. If that condition becomes true, these statements will run, which are in orange. Otherwise, if none of these things are true, it goes to again the third block of statements, which becomes true and they are run. Okay, so this is one of the ways, the conditional ways. Okay, so if, elif, else. In all other languages, the conditions are if, else, if, else. Okay, so in Java or something, if it is if, else, if, else. So here it is elif. Now, as I said, there are three things. One is conditional, the second one is repetitive. So in most of the programming languages, you see some of the statements are getting repeated. For example, I want to do the same calculation 10 times. I want to calculate square of a number 10 times. Okay, so for that you will use some kind of looping constructs. So here you see the value of t is 10 initially. What I'm doing is, as long as the value of t is greater than 0, just keep printing it and reduce the value of t. So I'm repeating the statement here, and an expression is becoming true only then the inside statements are executed. Otherwise, the values are coming out. Okay, so that is how the conditions are repeating here. Okay, for any programming language, you need to know this programming and conditional at a minimum. Okay, the repetitive and if statements. So now for any programming language, now these are the things. So let us start with very basic things. Let's start to learn variables. So what are variables here? A variable is basically a temporary place where a programmer can store some kind of data and they can retrieve it at a later point in time in the same program itself. Okay, so some of the rules for variables in Python is that it can start with a letter or underscore, so it cannot start with a number or a special character. So it can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. It cannot contain anything apart from this. Okay, and all these variable names are case sensitive. That means a small x is equal to 12 is not equal to capital X is equal to 12. So they are all case sensitive. Okay. So some of the examples I have given here. What are good? What are good variable names here? So one is spam eggs, spam 23 are very good, like good variable names, whereas bad variable names are 23 spam because that it is starting with a number. And the second one is hash 12, it is starting with a special character which is not part of the rules. Third one is var 1.2, it should not contain dots. Okay, so the variable names can be assigned a value using the equal operator. So x is equal to 12. Here what I'm doing is I'm assigning a value called 12 to x. So it can be modified. Okay. So these are called variables. Now, as I said, expression is a combination of operators and operands. So x is equal to x plus 2, where x, the equal to is an operator, and x and x plus 2 is basically operands. Okay. Now, when you create an expression, there is some rule that gets applied. Okay. For example, if you take this statement or expression, so what should be the answer for this? I will give you just a minute, and you can not even a minute. You can try it. Give me the answer for this. So 1 plus 2 double star 3, 2 double star 3 is exponential basically, and divide 4 star 5. So what should be the answer for this? All right, so let's calculate it. So the rules that Python says is order of evaluation is basically from left to right. And yeah, Vinit says 11 and that's correct. So from left to right, so we need to give first value to parenthesis, next the exponential, next multiplication, division or remainder, and next addition, subtraction. So the value has to come from left to right. So let's start from left to right. So from left to right, if you see 2 double star 3 is given more value first. So 2 raised to the power 3 is 8. Then becomes 8 by 4. 8 by 4 is given more value than 4 star 5. So 8 by 4 is 2. Next, 2 star 5 is 10 and 1 plus 10 is 11. So the answer for this is 11. Okay. So the simple way to remember the order of precedence is using a formula called PEMDAS. Okay. So PEMDAS is parenthesis, exponential, multiplication, division, and remainder, and addition, subtraction. And all these are from left to right. Okay. So now, any questions so far? Any questions here? So let's do something. Let's try to play around with our interpreter. Let's go to this interpreter. How do I open my interpreter? Just type Python. You should get an interpreter here. So try to create expressions. Try to play around with that. X is equal to 10. X double star 3 is 1000. So how do I know double star? Because I know all these operators. I will tell you what are these operators. Okay. So we have another 4 5 minutes. So I will talk about arithmetic operators quickly. Okay. So you have plus operator. Okay. You have minus operator. You have star operator, that is multiplication. You have uh, division operator. Similarly, you have a mod operator. Okay. Similarly, you have mod operator, and you have equal to operator, that is called conditional operator, where you check whether they are equal. Okay. So these are called arithmetic operators. and there are some additional operators that I'll be talking in the next session. But in this session, I just wanted to introduce you with Python. The problem with right now is the Zoom, which gives me only 40 minutes. Even if I want to continue, it will stop me in 2-3 minutes. So I want to make sure you guys, if you have any questions, ask me so that we can.
I guess since it's the first session, it'll allow you to extend more.
Will it allow?
Yeah. It just gave me a pop-up that your host is upgraded. It usually does that in the first session.
Oh, that's fine. Then we can continue. All right. So I think everybody should open their Python interpreters, and actually we can finish off these operators now. And we will write a simple calculator. Then we can close off for today. Okay. Um, so these are addition operators. Okay. The arithmetic operators. The way the logical operator is basically you have two expressions and you want to compare them together. Okay, you want to compare using and, or, and not, and based on the result you want to perform some operations. uh, for example, you have x is equal to 2. Now what I want to do is x double equal to 2. Okay, and x less than 5. So in this, I have two expressions. X is double equal to 2, which means x that is true, and x is less than 5, that is also true. Since both of them are true, so the result is going to be true. Okay. So if one of them fails in the AND, so it gives false. Okay. For example, x is greater than 5, it should give me false. So Python is basically English like programming language, so it is very easy to write code. Okay. Uh, Similarly, you have a statement called OR. Okay, where any one of the expression becomes true, at that time the whole statement becomes true. For example, x not equal to true, or x is um, greater than 5, which is becomes false because both of the statements are false. Now I will make one of the expressions true, so it becomes true. And the other operator is called not operator. Basically I will say not of x is less than 5. X is less than 5 is true, so if you make not to it, it should give me false. So we learned here logical operators. Okay, comparison logical operators, and also equal to, not equal to, the comparison operators, the greater than, less than. Okay, so with this knowledge, okay, as I said, we should not use this interpreter more often if you're writing code more than 3 lines. Okay, and let us try to create a very simple application in Python. Okay, so I would say a basic calculator which only takes two variable values. Okay, two variable values and just calculates the sum of it. That's it. Okay, now how to take the input? I will say when cals.py in Python 3, the way to take input from a user is very easy, using a statement, using a function called input. If you just put this and run this, it will wait for users input. Okay, some of the things you need to remember here is whatever is coming from the input is always a string. Even if user enters integer values, it is coming as strings. Okay, so for example, I will say enter x value. Whatever has been user has entered, I am going to store this in a variable called x. Next, I will say input enter y value. Quite easy. So far, very easy. Now, if I want to add these values, I will just say print x plus y. The problem here is, as I said, whatever is coming from input is string. We need to convert that to integer, but right now I will just use it as it is. Okay.
You
So
have a
how?
double. Oh,
What is it?
you have a double quote at the end of value. Why?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you intentionally did it?
No, there is, it is already there. It is correct actually. Input,
Oh,
enter y value. Yeah, this is already there. So let me run it. Python calcs.py. If I run this, what should be the output? So it is waiting for me to enter x value. I will say the value of x is 1 and value of y is 2. And what should be the output here? The output here is 12. The reason is basically we are not converting these values into integers. So both are strings. So the strings is getting added. So how do I change this? You will learn at a later point, but for now, you just remember just to convert int of these two values. Okay, just make it. Don't worry about anything else. Let's run the same program again. So now I'll enter 1, now I'll 2. So it gives me answer as 3. Okay. So from whatever we learned how to take input from the user. We learned that whatever has been entered into input is always a string. And if we want integer to be there, we need to convert it into a function called int. Okay. So in Python, we have x is equal to 10. If you want to know what kind of value it is, okay, you basically use a function called type, and you will just in bracket you will pass variable name or value directly. So it should give me what kind of value it is. Is it an int? Is it a float? So let's do that. So 10.1. So it is a float value. So if it is, I'm going to give name. So it is of type string. Okay. Um, Similarly, in any programming language, by default, it gives some batteries to you. It gives some modules to you to perform to solve a particular problem. Okay. So in Python, to solve some of the problems, it has given 6 data types as an inbuilt data types. Okay. What are those? You have numbers, you have strings, you have lists, you have dictionaries, you have sets. Okay. So there are 6 data types. So if you learn these 6 data types along with the basic knowledge, then you should be able to use those data structures in your programs to solve a specific problems. For example, you want to store continuous values, and you want to store some values, and you want to perform operations on all of them. Okay, so you will at that time you will use a data structure called a list. If you want to store a value in the form of key value, at that time we'll use a data structure called the dictionary. So we will go all that into a very detailed data structure in each of those. Okay, like strings, dictionaries, and sets. Let's go to the if else statement. Let's write some program into the if else. I hope so far it's fine, right? Do you want to try this calculator? For very beginners, I think you need to try this in your file. Let me do one thing. Let me share this via chat. So just put this in a file and try to run this. Let me know if I can go to the next concepts. Then we can actually try that out. Then we can move to the next step. So try that out. Let me know once done. All right. So somebody has got error, getting some error. So Vineet is getting some. X is equal to x double star 3. Here x is not defined, right? So capital X you are using, but you are defined small x. So use small x double star 3. All right. So let's do some modifications to this code. Anyway, this is printing the sum value. Now let me show you a simple if else code so that you can try. And let me introduce you to the concept called indentation in Python. Okay, that is the most important thing. So Python founder and some of the early people, they built up uh, a poem called Zen of Python. Okay, so it gives a guiding principles of Python. It shows guiding principles of Python, and it says that the code has to be more readable, more beautiful than complex. Okay, code has to be very simple to read. If even if you just look at it, you need to understand what this code does. Okay, so that is why in other languages you use curly braces, right, for all the if statements, for all the looping construct. Instead of a curly brace in other languages, you use a colon here. Okay, and after every colon you need to leave a tab or four spaces. All the block of code should be indented by four spaces or a tab, any number of spaces by that matter, but generally people use tab because it is very easy to type. Okay, so let us do one thing here. If value of x is greater than 10, I am going to use a colon here. That means next I need to use a tab. Okay, so I'm going to print in the bracket value of x is greater than 10. Else again I have used colon, so I have to put a tab here. So value of x is not greater than 10. Okay, see the double quotes I'm using, it's a string. Okay, you can use single quote as well. So it's very simple here how to write if and else, the conditioning code here. You use if, after that you use an expression, and if the expression becomes true, all the lines, I've written only one line here, but all the lines inside this will execute. If this becomes false, it goes into the else statement. I used colon again, so I'm using a tab here, and any number of statements under it will get executed. So this is a simple if else block code. Okay, now I will add a little more complexity to this. I will use elif. I am adding additional condition. If x is greater than 5, print value of x is greater than 5. Okay, now else it goes to value of x is not greater than 5. So the process that happens here is, suppose I have entered a value 15. 15 is greater than 10. So this statement gets executed. None of the other statements get executed. If I enter a value called 9, so first x is greater than 10. No, 9 is not greater than 10. It goes to the next year. 9 is greater than 5. Yes. So this statement gets executed and this is never getting executed. The above block as well. If I enter 4, 4 is greater than 10. No. 4 is greater than 5. No. So it go into else block and this gets executed. So this is how you write this code. If you observe this, this is very easy to read and quite easy to actually code as well. So any questions on the indentation? So I've sent this code via chat as well. Indentation is very important. You will get a lot of syntax errors. Any questions here? Let me execute this. How to execute? Python cals.py. I will initially put 11 and value of y is 10. So the output is value of x is greater than 10. Okay. Now again I will run. I will put 9. I'll put 10. So value of x is greater than 5. I will run now 4. So our output is, since I didn't enter y value, it threw an error. But y value is 10. So it is a value of x not greater than 5. So this is a very effective, simple if else block. Any questions? So try it out. I'll give a half a minute. I hope everybody's trying out. Okay, so let's learn this while loop and close it for today. For loop requires we learn some data structures. The last thing that we learned today is while loop. All right, so let's do something. So what I want to do is I want to print the values from 1 to 10. Okay. So I will define an initial number, which is basically n is equal to 0. Okay. The syntax for while is while the expression, okay, expression colon, wherever we are using colon, you need to just tab it. Okay. Make sure that this expression becomes true or has an exit condition. Otherwise, it will be a forever loop always. Okay. So I have n is equal to 0 here. So what I will do is while n is less than or equal to 10, okay, I am going to print n and I am going to do n is equal to n plus 1. So what happens is initially n is 0, 0 is less than or equal to 10, so it becomes true. So there is a colon, so it goes here, all the block of code gets executed. So first statement prints this 0 and next it increments it to 1. So next time 1, similarly 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And when it becomes 11, so since 11 is not less than or equal to 10, it becomes false and comes out of while loop. So I will print here comes out of while loop. A very simple code. So very easy syntax. Okay. Very easy syntax here. The while, the expression, the statements with colon. Okay. So let us try to run this. Python loop.py. So it prints 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it comes out of while loop. Any questions in this syntax? So let's, the assignment right now for you guys is to write this while loop to print the square of the number. I have just printed the number. You need to print the square of the number. That's the assignment. All right. So what the changes I need to make here if I had to print the square of the number? I just have to do either n star n or n double star raised to the power 2. So just save this and run this. So it becomes 0, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. Okay, this is quite simple. Any questions here? Yeah, this also works when it n double star. Yeah, I think that's about it for today's session. So please give me feedback whether this was helpful or this is the way you guys want it or different way. Let's continue. Let's learn little more advanced to Python. These everybody will easily learn, but let's go to the next steps. Let's learn the next concepts. Okay. Before we close, any questions here?
No problem. Thanks a lot for your time and
No problem. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I will share the next meeting invite and we can connect back.
Thank you, Pawan. And would you be sharing the recording?
Yeah, I will definitely share the recording.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Pawan.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.